get started. Go ahead.
Could you do number 23? I forgot.
All right, so let's find 23 and then everybody just look up on the board. All right, so on number 23, you had to square x minus 5. You with me on that? You had to multiply that out. And when you multiplied that out, it became x squared minus 10x plus 25. You see that? And then what was nice about this particular problem is the x squareds do what? They cancel, right? So it really wasn't even a quadratic. All right. It's not. Okay, someone else from last night. Someone? Everybody's feeling good about quadratics?
I care about those factors, though.
Good. Yeah, it is very easy when you pay attention, Alden. Yep. I agree. Nobody else for questions or concerns? All right. So with that being said, then we're just going to go ahead and load up the review. All right. And what I did with the last class before I just let them go is normally I like to give you a day to kind of review, but I know it's kind of old stuff. So what I did was I just went through and I did a couple in each section just to get them warmed up to make sure they remember everything. All right. So quadratic review. Everybody look at that. All right. Now it says solve by factoring. Solve by factoring. Now, I do want to mention, let's say for some strange reason, you just don't see the factoring. You can always use the quadratic formula. It will solve them all. All right. But I always try to tell kids it's much better. Factoring is much quicker. So we want to make sure we're good at factoring. So I'd like everybody to take a look at question number 2. And let's try to factor that. All right, so with 8x squared, what am I going to break 8x squared down to? Yes, let's do 4x and 2x. Factors of 15. So now I have to figure out where I'm going to put the 5 and where I'm going to put the 3.
You put the 3 on the right side of the 5.
And let's see if that's correct. How much is this? 12 and makes
Minus 3 plus 5.
right. So there we go. So I want the 3 to be negative and the 5 to be positive. All right. Now, of course, because we are brilliant, all right, we're going to just go ahead and say x equals what fraction?
5 over 4.
And then over here, x equals
3 over 2.
3 over 2. Beautiful. That's it. All right. I don't have an issue with that.
So if we do the quadratic formula, we'll get the exact same answer.
You get the same exact answer. Okay.
Okay.
Now, the next one is solve taking the square root. All right. So if I wanted to look at number 5, I literally would just take the square root of both sides. And when you take the square root, you need to make sure to remember to put what down?
Plus or minus.
Yep. So the answer is plus or minus what? 7. All right. Now remember, you're going to take the square root when there's no x term, just an x squared. All right. So let's practice something else. So let's take a look now at number 9. Everybody take a look at number 9. All right. So for number 9, we have to isolate the square. All right, so now what do I have to do first? And then what do I do? Add 3. Then after I add 3, I what? Divide by -4. Now I'm expecting everybody to be able to do the arithmetic on that. So if I add 3, that becomes what? -24. And then if I divide by -4, that becomes a 6. So I want everybody to write down x plus 2 squared equals what? 6. Anybody have any issues with that? Add 3, then divide by -4. Now what do I do? Take the square root. So now I have x plus 2 equals, you're awesome, plus or minus radical 6. Then move the 2. So x equals negative,
-2 plus or minus.
yep, -2 plus or minus radical 6. Everybody okay with that? All right, so now I'm going to do 11. Now, the reason why I'm doing number 11 is because it's still, you just need to remember that you're supposed to combine terms. All right, so I have to move the x squared where? To the left. And if I do that, that becomes how many x squareds? 2x squared equals 250. Beautiful. Then what?
Then divide by 2.
Divide by 2. So I have x squared equals what? 125. And now we square root, right? So what perfect squares in 125? Right, 5 times 25. So that breaks down to, but don't forget, plus or minus 5 radical 5.
Nice.
Anybody have any issues? Anybody? All right, so that was square roots. Now we're doing the quadratic formula. All right, so I want everybody to look at number 15. It says solve using the quadratic formula, but I did what?
Factor.
I wouldn't do the quadratic formula unless it was a hard one. Does everybody see what I'm saying, right? So if I say solve by using quadratic formula and you say, wow, this is just super easy, can I just factor it? I would say what? Yes, of course. I'm not trying to make you do something a hard way, right? So I want you to factor it. If you want to use the quadratic formula, can you use the quadratic formula? Yes, of course. All right, but it's not necessary. All right. So now let's go ahead over here. Does this factor? No, because there are no factors of 2 that make -5. So let's write the quadratic formula. So we have x equals
-b plus or minus.
B squared.
Yeah, b squared minus 4ac, and then over 2a.
all over 2a. All right, you got today and tomorrow to finish up learning that. -b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a.
X equals 5 plus or minus.
Hold up a second.
Sorry.
So you're right. X equals what?
5 plus or minus radical -5 to the second.
Which is just what? 5 squared, right? 25?
Yeah, that's what
Uh-huh. 4 times, what's A?
A is 1.
And what's C?
C is 2.
All over 2 times A, which
10,
is just,
-10.
wait a minute, what's 2 times A again?
Oh, I'm sorry, there would be just 2.
Just 2. All right. Now I need help with this inside here, guys, please.
X is equal to 5 plus or minus radical 17 over 2.
I'm happy with that.
Nice.
Anybody have any issues?
You can't divide it because there's a 5.
Right. Exactly. All right, so let's practice one more just to be safe. Let's do number 19. All right, so again, we're going to write it. Everybody practice. X equals,
We could factor that.
what does it got?
-b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac over 2a.
Okay, so somebody said we can factor that.
Yeah.
What's 2 times 3?
6.
6, -6.
Are there any factors of -6 that can equal -4?
No, never mind.
So it does not factor.
Sorry.
We know. All right, so from there, x, help me.
X equals 4 plus or minus radical.
Negative.
Why is it not negative?
Because negative times negative.
He's correct.
Okay. Sorry, 16
I'm always correct.
minus 4 times 2 times -3
I know the feeling, by the way.
over 4.
Everybody good with that? All right, now take your time and help me with this.
It would be 40.
Anybody agree with that?
And we can divide that.
40 can be broken down to what?
10. 10, 4.
2 and 10.
2 and 10. 2, wait, what? No. 2 radical 1.
Could be 4 radical 5.
What are you talking about? 40, remember, is 4 times 10.
8 times. I did 8 times.
Yeah, but 4 breaks down.
And the square root of 4 is 2.
Sorry, I did 8 times 5.
So then in the end, we get
Now, remember, what I would like you to do is I would like for you to highlight
the parts that we're dividing.
4, 2, and 4. What can be divided by?
2.
2.
So x equals,
X equals 2 plus or minus radical 10 over 4 or 2.
now, is it necessary for the 1 to be there?
No.
No, I don't care about the 1 being there.
That's why I said
All right.
radical 10.
Okay, Oscar, how did I get what? The yellow, Oscar, do that yellow work. Do you see it now, Oscar? All right. Okay. Next. Here we go. The distance between 2 points. All right. This was a while ago. That was that distance formula. All right. That was the distance formula. So everybody write that down. X2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared square root. That's the distance. Can distance be negative?
No.
No, distance cannot be negative. All right. So there is no plus or minus here. You don't say from here to my house is -3 miles.
That could be fun. though.
Negative is a direction. Negative is a direction. Yes.
Are you sure about that?
All right.
If I'm facing somewhere behind me.
So now everybody practice. D equals square root x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared.
D equals radical 5.
Now, remember, this is considered x1, y1, x2, y2. So we're subtracting the x's. So I'm going to just write it out. -4 minus -2, which would make it +2 squared plus 5 minus 3 squared. Now remember, the negatives is what throws people off. Okay, so now D equals -4 plus 2 is,
Negative.
and then when you square that, that becomes
4.
and then same thing. So the distance between the 2 points is the square root of 8. And of course, we would say the square root of 8 is just, help me, 2 radical 2. All right, let's do. You don't mind, let's try 30. So D equals square root. So now D equals 9 plus 11 squared plus -4 minus 4 squared.
No, it's -4 minus 11.
Oh boy, I did make a mistake. Thank you. Hold up. 9. Yeah, I messed that all up. Thank you, guys. So it's 9 minus 4 and then -4 plus 11.
What? Oh, okay.
Then 9 minus 4 is what? 5 squared plus 49. Thank you. So 49 plus 25 is 74. And 74 is 2 times 37, right? So that doesn't break down. So there you go.
Nice.
All right, now we're going to look at 31. 31 is hard. All right. I want the distance between these 2 points to equal what? 9. All right. So let's write the distance formula. D equals square root x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. So what's the distance?
9.
9. So 9 equals. So if I subtract 3 minus 7, what's that? -4. And if I square that, that becomes 16 plus. Now I can't do the y's, but it's going to be y plus 2 squared. Does everybody see that?
Yes.
Anybody have any issues? So now I'm working backwards. So how do I get rid of a square root? Square both sides, right? I'm going to square both sides. So what's 9 squared? So now 81 is equal to 16 plus y plus 2 squared. Now what am I going to do? Nope. You can't square root through addition.
Move the 16.
Move the 16. Thank you. What's 81 minus 16?
65.
So 65 equals y plus 2 squared. Now what do I do? Now you can take the square root. So y plus 2 equals what?
I think 15.
Plus or minus the square root of 65. 65 is 13 times 5, so we can't really break that down. So now what do I do with the 2? Right. So we say y equals -2 plus or minus the square root of 65.
Whoa.
All right.
Geez, I would have given up this looking.
Mr. Star, I don't even know how you do this half the time. You're like,
What do you mean?
I used to remember.
What's your IQ?
I don't have one.
Is it too high? for
No.
the measure?
No, it's not very high, actually.
oh,
That's Cap.
All right, here we go. Anybody have any questions with that? Anybody? All right, so now just make yourself a note, review. All right, you need to review that problem. That one's hard. And then number 31 is very similar to number 32. All right, so you got practice problem. All right, now you have to remember right triangle. What was the rule for right triangles? A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And then remember, the hypotenuse was what? C. A and B were called the what? Legs. All right. A and B are interchangeable. C is not. Does anybody have any questions with that? All right, so let's look over here. So now I just want everybody to write a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And so now what? 5 squared plus 5 squared equals 25 plus 25 equals c squared. C squared equals 50. Now I'm taking the square root. Do I need plus or minus on this one?
No,
Because why?
it's always gonna be positive.
It has to be positive because we're talking about a length. All right, we're talking about a length. So how do I break down 50, somebody?
10 and 5.
Right, which is, thank you, Max, what? 5 radical 2. Thank you very much. All right, again, for those of you guys, 25 times 2, and you're breaking down 25.
Nice.
All right. So let's do 36. All right, now this one was kind of annoying. All right. So again, write a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So I have a squared plus, now keep in mind, 3 radical 5 squared. Uh-oh. We got a problem here. Change this real quick to me, for me, guys. I made a typo. Change this to a 4.
So did you like already know the answer?
Yeah, yeah. Equals, then it would be 4 radical 5 squared. All right, so now let's go. A squared plus, now what's 3 squared? What's radical 5 squared? 5. So that's 9 times 5. Equals 16 times what?
80.
Good. That is correct. So now we have to multiply those. So a squared plus what?
45.
Equals 80. So now a squared has to equal 35. So a is equal to radical 35. Very nice work. All right. Now what I'll end up doing is I'll end up finishing this and then I'll post the answers later. But again, your job right now is to try to go through and do everything we haven't done. Now, generally what I tell kids is you probably should either do the odds or do the evens. That way you get a sample of everything. All right. All I'm doing is sitting here. All right. If you get stuck on something you're not sure, I don't mind trying to help you. All right. But please, this is what I want you working on. All right. I'm not trying to make it hard. This will be exactly the same format as what's on the test. Exact same format as the test.
What is the test?
Friday. All right. Very simple. Very simple. All right. So please get to work.